February 7th, 2023 Site Plan Review Technical Advisory Committee meeting to order. First item of business is approval of the minutes from the January 3rd meeting. Do we have any comments or changes or a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes have been approved. First item under old business, 375 Banfield. They are postponing again. Hopefully we'll hear, well, I'm not going to make any assumptions about when that will be back, but.
Please don't.
So that brings us to item B and C. I'll read them both into the record. Item B, the request of Frederick J. Bailey III and Joyce Nelson, owners, and Tuck Realty Corporation, applicant, for properties located at 212, 214, and 216 Woodbury Avenue, requesting preliminary and final subdivision approval for a lot line relocation to create the following lots. Proposed Lot 1 to be 60,025 square feet of lot area, where 26,012 square feet are existing. Proposed Lot 2 to be 12,477 square feet of lot area, where 29,571 square feet are existing. And proposed Lot 3 to be 7,917 square feet of lot area, where 24,836 square feet are existing. No changes in street frontage are proposed. Said properties are located on Assessor Map 175, lots 1, 2, and 3, and lie within the General Residence A district. Item C is a request of Frederick J. Bailey III and Joyce Nelson, owners, and Tuck Realty Corporation, owner and applicant, for properties located at 212 Woodbury Avenue, requesting site plan approval for the construction of an 8-unit condominium development consisting of 4 single living unit structures, 2 2-unit structures, 18 parking spaces where 13 are required, and associated stormwater, utility, and site improvements with access to the development from Boyd Street. So properties are located on Assessor Map 175, Lot 1, and lies within the General Residence A district. Hello, welcome.
Thank you, Peter. Joe Coronati, Jones Beach Engineers, representing the applicant, Tuck Realty. I think since the last meeting, we've received sign-off on the stormwater design from Altus. We received the staff comments yesterday, and I don't think we have any real questions on those. There may have been a question for us on, I think there were 2 items. One was finalizing the layout of the water / fire services to the units. The second one was the clay core berm detail that we added, and that was added to sheet D4. And it was something that we were going back and forth with Altus as the reviewer, and then the final item was something new, that we have to file a conditional use permit for the highway noise overlay district, which we will do prior to, I guess, if this board overlay district, which we will do prior to, I guess, if this board moves us forward, we'll do that prior to have to do it prior to going to the planning board, and all those are fine with us.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Any questions or comments from anyone on TAC? Hearing no comments, I'll ask anyone from the public wish to speak on this application or on Zoom. If anyone on the Zoom call would like to make a comment, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll close the public portion. Any further discussion from TAC or a motion of any sort?
I'll make a motion to send this on to the planning board with the stipulation that the DPW review and approve the final water service locations going into the buildings.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. And then I assume we're not set to a date, obviously, at this point. We'll have to apply that
Right.
CUP, and then we will
Yeah.
figure out a date.
Submit the full application, yep, and then you'll get the date if you meet.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I'll read, the next two I'll read it together also, item D and E. Item D is the request of Pease Development Authority owner for property located at 80 Rochester Avenue, site plan approval for the construction of a 209,750 square foot advanced manufacturing building, including 18,145 square feet of office space, 2 parking areas, 2 loading dock areas, minor realignment of a portion of Rochester Avenue, and associated site improvements consisting of underground utilities, landscaping, lighting, and a stormwater management system. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 308, Lot 1, and lies within the Pease Industrial District. And item E is a request of Pease Development Authority owner for property located at 80 Rochester Ave, requesting a lot line adjustment to add 22,251 square feet to the existing lot as part of a realignment of Rochester Avenue for a proposed lot size of 496,584 square feet. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 308, Lot 1, and lies within the Pease Industrial District. Is that still correct, Neil?
Which
That,
part?
what I just read, the realignment?
No.
Right, that was from last time. So
Yes.
that's,
Yeah, the subdivision we are still moving forward with. But
Right.
It's to define the lease area. We're not
all right,
changing.
so let's not take E into consideration. We'll just stick with D for now, that for the,
That will be part of the package that needs to move forward.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you. So Neil Hansen, project manager with Ty and Bond. Patrick Kermans from Ty and Bond is also here, as well as Mike Mates from the Pease Development Authority. So since the last time we were here, we received the third-party reviews for traffic and for stormwater. We are still working through a response to the traffic peer review comments, and we turned over the stormwater peer review earlier today back to the city and to Underwood. We also received the staff comments last night, so I'd just like to run through those. So the first comment was related to the third-party traffic review not addressing the concerns previously raised about the crosswalks in New Hampshire Ave. And it says, based on the projected traffic volumes and width of crossings, additional safety measures could be warranted if speeds are in excess of 35 miles per hour. Crosswalks are not usually warranted if less than 20 pedestrians per hour. So we ran this by our traffic group, and their preliminary response that they provided us is that our data shows the 85th percentile speeds between 37 and 40 miles an hour, and the average daily traffic volumes of up to 5,000 vehicles. It said, based on Federal Highway Administration guidelines, enhanced crosswalk and warning signs should be provided, but an RRFB would not be required. And we don't currently anticipate pedestrian volumes over 20 miles per hour, or over 20 per hour. So we can detail that as part of our traffic peer review, and you can review it further, I guess, at that point. 2 is to consider a hydrodynamic separator prior to stormwater entering the detention chambers. So we have utilized offline deep sump catch basins with oil water separator hoods for pretreatment, which is an approved pretreatment method for NHDES. The size of a hydrodynamic separator pre-detention would be incredibly large given the size of the site. Provide estimated average daily and peak water usage. So as this project currently does not have an identified end user, we could provide an estimate based on an assumed use, but that would likely need to be updated as a user was identified, and we went into more detailed design of the building itself. So if that's something you'd like us to provide, we can. Connect sewer service into, or do not connect sewer service into existing structure 2041. Install a new structure upstream from the existing proposed connection. We can make that revision. The sewer main in Rochester between and including manholes 2041 and sewer manhole 2114 is in poor condition, needs to be replaced. Applicant will need to work with Public Works to replace this section and the two manholes so that it's fit for use. So we can get that onto the next submission set and add a note about coordinating that work with DPW. Identify waste stream characteristics, types of waste to be discharged, and concentrations. So again, as there's not a defined end user yet, we wouldn't be able to provide that information at this time. But that could be reviewed further once a user has been identified for this site. This is a large manufacturing facility. Any potential food prep area for employees will require a grease trap. So again, as part of this current plan, we're not anticipating any food service on this site. But again, as the build-outs develops and if that need arises, we're aware that a grease trap would need to be put in place. That would likely be identified prior to construction though, so we'd be able to work through that at that point. Verify this development adheres to all stormwater requirements as stated in the site plan review regulations, chapter 7. So this site falls under the PDA regs, so the chapter 7 regs wouldn't apply. However, this project does require an alteration of terrain permit, which follows the requirements under that 150703 of the state stormwater regulations. And we did submit the alteration of terrain permit, I believe it was on Monday, yesterday or Friday. So that has gone into the state. Please label Lee Street and Aviation Ave on plans. We can do that. Do not install electric conduit pads, equipment within 5 feet of existing sewer main or drainage pipes. We can make that revision as well. Label Newfield and Stratham Street on plan set. Both are shown to be milled with overlay. Neither are in the condition that the solution be acceptable. Both need reconstruction via reclamation and fortification with 2-inch angular crushed stone and new pavement. We can make that revision as well. As a telephone manhole in the tip down of the north driveway raised to grade. Add telephone lines to the plan to be certain to avoid conflicts. So we'll add the telephone lines to the plan, and we have utility note 14 is currently on the plans that states contractor to adjust all manholes, catch basins, curb boxes, etc. within limits of work to finish grade. Truncated dome plates are not to be used when the sidewalk system crosses driveways. We can remove those at the driveway crossings. Eliminate old drainage structures, catch basins, and add drain manholes on the main pipe at all pipe junctions during Rochester Street narrowing. We can make that revision. I think there was another comment on here about a couple catch basins that were missing, existing catch basins near Lee Street. So we can get those on the plan as well. Raise all structures encountered to finish grade, similar to the previous comment about utility note 14. All concrete curb is to be replaced with vertical granite. We can make that revision. Sidewalks on site do not need to meet the 5.5-foot wide standard unless desired. I think we're probably just going to keep them that way for consistency, but it's good to know for the future. 4 post indicator valve posts along Rochester Street are remnants of old water services that are likely still active and need to be terminated at the main by contractor. We'll add a note and call that out on the demo plan as well for that to be coordinated with DPW. Looks like a guy pole across from Lee Street is on top of a sewer line. Pole may need relocation to affect sewer repairs. So we'll call that out on the plans. We did review that. It looks like the pole itself is very close to the existing drain line, but there's also a guy wire off that pole that may go on top of the sewer. So we'll get a note on there for the contractor to verify that and make the appropriate provisions during construction for that. Relocate the proposed sidewalk on Newfield Street so the utility pole is on the sidewalk. We'll make that revision. There's a tree across from Lee Street that's supposed to remain but is not accounted for in the grading. So the tree is planned to be removed. The to remain tag was referencing the utility pole that's adjacent to that tree. So we've relocated that note to avoid the confusion and specifically called out the tree is to be removed. That tree is right on top of the sewer main in that section that was called out to be replaced earlier. Replace all curb inlet, tombstone style catch basin grates to type B. We will do that. And then the last one was related to Underwood's comment in the peer review for stormwater about the future parking. And that impervious surface was included in our stormwater calculations, and we referenced that in the response to peer review, so we've accounted for that. So those are all the comments we've received prior to this meeting. Be happy to take any more or answer any questions.
Thanks, Neil. Any questions or comments? You mentioned you were going to have to go back to the zoning board, is that correct?
Yes, for the, so we received a variance for the front lot line setback, and because of the change with the approach on the subdivision, we need one for the rear lot line now. So I believe we're on the agenda for this month.
Okay.
To get that.
All right.
I just had a question. You had said the hydrodynamic separator was too big to fit? Is that what the
No,
response
so
was?
we're getting pretreatment with offline catch basins and deep sumps with hoods, which is a standard pretreatment practice. We didn't actually look at it because we have the offline catch basins, so we don't. It doesn't perform any different than that. I'm just a site of this size with the pre-detention flow rate would be extraordinarily high, and the size of that hydrodynamic separator unit would likely be extremely large.
Okay.
So wouldn't you put it right after it leaves, the drainage pipes leave the parking lots? Because that's really what you need it for.
The comment
So
was
you do it upstream of where the roofs tie in, or upstream of that, so that you're only cleaning the area that's on the ground.
yeah, that would be a strategy. But again, we are getting our pretreatment through offline catch basins, so it wouldn't serve any additional purpose.
Any other comments before we open public comment? All right. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak on this application? Or on Zoom? Okay, Mark, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Mark Fougier, planner for the town of Greenland, here representing the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board. This is a continuation of the concern that the town of Greenland has relative to the development of Pease. We were before the Planning Board during the Lanza application expressing our concern about the added traffic strain on Route 33. We have one of the intersections on 33 that's currently at failure, with significant backups in the morning and AM periods. We expressed those concerns to the planning board for the Lanza project, and we're here today, again, expressing our concerns. There's been over 2 million square feet of space added to Pease, with no off-site mitigation to offset these impacts. The traffic study done by Time Bond, we believe, continues to use flawed analysis that our engineer has highlighted a couple years ago in front of the planning board, which we think downplays the impact to Route 33, and that continues. I heard from the discussion that there's been a peer review of the traffic study. I didn't see that in the documents. If that's available, we'd like to see that. But our concern with the continued growth at Pease is that Route 33 is being ignored. We have an estimate through Vaness to fix that intersection, which ranges from $3.3 to $5 million because of the bridge. We have made efforts to get on the 10-year highway plan, and we are way back in the line with that. We'd like to see some consideration to address the traffic concerns in Greenland, and would appreciate the ability to have those discussions with appropriate people involved with this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the hearing today. Any other comments or motion?
So with the third-party traffic review, do you plan to respond to those comments? And
Yes.
provide this?
Yes.
Because they did point out a lot of intersections that are failing or have significant impacts from this traffic.
Yeah, we'll be providing comment or responses to all of those comments.
And we just got the stormwater third party, right? So,
Yeah, we just submitted our responses to that earlier today.
I don't have any other comments. Does anybody else? We're going to have to wait for that. I make a
Right.
motion to postpone it till we get the results. We'll go through your response and then get the results on the peer review.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Postpone, continue to the next one. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, moving along to new business. Item A is the request of Lucky 13 Properties LLC owner for property located at 147 Congress Street, requesting site plan review approval for a 700-square-foot addition, front and rear canopies, and associated off-site and on-site improvements. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 126, Lot 4, and lies within the Character District 5 and Historic District.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Eric Weinrib with Altus Engineering. I have, for a small project, quite a few people with me. I have the owner, Mike Labrie, architect Sarah Howard, and from OJ Building Company, I have Louis Hamill and Andrew right there. He moved on me. Andrew Wilson. Very simple project. A small 700-square-foot addition on to 147 Congress. It's the area sort of in orange, the infill along the sidewalk of Maplewood Avenue. In addition to being here and going through TAC and Planning Board, the application has already been through the HDC for the building expansion as well as improvements to the facade and new canopies. We're in the Downtown Overlay District and Character District 5. Project does not require any new utility service upgrades. Last fall, before the application came in, when they were started doing interior renovations, new domestic water and fire service protection services were upgraded. There's a separate sewer and drainage for roof drain connection to the from the building. As I said, very simple project. Andrew is in the process of ensuring that there's no cross connection with the sewer and drainage at this point. He's having those lines scoped just to confirm. And I'll be the messenger on the grease trap. We do have Louis here, who has been in contact with the city plumbing inspector, Kevin Gagne, and confirmed that we are providing an interior grease trap. And for space issues and capacity, it doesn't require, or space issues, it doesn't meet we don't have space for 1,000 gallon. We're providing a 750 in the basement, and that is appropriate based on flow and volume. And I think that if you have additional questions when I get done, Louis can talk further about this. And then lastly, the only other comment that came up was access into the building from the rear parking lot, and I'll let Sarah jump in with that.
Hi. So the rear of the building is page north, in the yellow, there is an existing ramp and platform that accesses 2 doors, which go into the upper and lower egress stairs. That's how you get in. The rear stair, there's 2. One, the door to page left accesses only the basement, and the door to page right accesses the main and upper floors only. They do not connect.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from TAC members?
The space between the doors seems very small. Is that an interior door and an exterior door?
Nope, they are both exterior doors. There's a space of about 1'7" between door jamb to door jamb. So it is very tight. Yeah, right there on the back.
Here.
It's a spandrel panel, it's a solid panel.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, it looks like you have a door. Once you open the door, there's another door right in front of you. I'm looking at the plan. That's what that appeared to be. Maybe I'm just not reading the plan
Can we
correctly.
pull the plan up on the screen?
There, let me
Yeah, it's the,
just scroll up a little bit.
This one?
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Here.
It's just it's a graphical error. They both swing out, and the hatch was not updated. So there's no
So this
double
should
doors.
be-
It's
that
just a
should be
single
hatch.
door.
okay.
Yep.
That would be weird.
That would be super weird because they're also swinging in the opposite
Right. I
directions.
think that was,
And confusing.
Yeah.
I was confused.
Well,
any other comments?
We're done.
Not yet. Anyone from the public like to make any comments on this application? Seeing no one and no one on Zoom, we'll close the public comment portion. And back to TAC for discussion or motion.
So what were your comments on the grease trap?
Louis, do you want to jump in, if you could? You need to come over via the microphone.
The grease trap hasn't actually been...
Sorry,
set-
can you just state your name
Oh,
for the...
my name's Louis Hamill from OJ Building Company.
Thanks.
The grease trap will be sized appropriately based on the flow and the volume from the first 2 bays of the pot sink and the sprayer for the dishwasher. That is being provided to us by the tenant. And as far as Eric can answer questions with regard to space outside, but there's no space on the property in which to put a 1,000-gallon underground grease trap.
I believe that Kevin, our plumbing mechanical inspector, has been working with you, Louis.
I called him this morning, yes.
Okay. And do you know if William, is it Vernon?
Vernon, yeah.
Has he been involved in that conversation as well?
Not yet, but Kevin did bring that up this morning, that it'd be
Okay.
best to work with him based on usage, flow, and volume.
And location, right. So I think
Right.
between Kevin and William, you'll make sure that the grease trap is in a suitable location
And sized
and
appropriately.
sized appropriately.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like a good condition to me.
Yeah.
Want to make it?
Are we,
Yeah.
is it moving forward?
I'll write it down if you guys want to keep discussing.
All right, I guess make a motion to move this forward with that as a condition? Second.
Second condition would be DPW review the observations for the, make sure the stormwater and sanitary sewer are currently separated properly, and they need to be, obviously, as a final situation. And finally, that an excavation permit and permission from the DPW be pulled for replacement of the sidewalk, and that will include replacing the sidewalk in front of Jimmy's, which is still asphalt.
We know.
Okay, good.
Is there any licenses? I mean, that's probably out of my purview, but this will go to planning board, and then licensing will occur at that time, because there probably will be closing down that area of the street for a while, I would imagine.
Definitely the sidewalk.
Yeah, obstruction, sidewalk obstruction.
Yep.
Oh, the sidewalk, yep, right.
Are the footings going to be under the right-of-way, or if they're not?
They're intended to stay on the property.
Okay. Thank you.
And you're not changing that tree in the front? That's existing?
It is an existing tree,
We're not touching it.
and we're intending to leave the tree planter there, yes.
Good.
All right, we have a motion and a second with 3 conditions. Are there any other conditions? No? Does anyone need to hear the conditions? No?
No.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So we can be on March, right?
If you get your packet in on time.
Okay. We'll try.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item B, under new business, the request of Lucky 13 Properties LLC owner for property located at 361 Islington Street, requesting site plan review approval for the redevelopment of the existing property, including a 695 square foot addition and a 73 square foot addition with associated site improvements, including lighting, utilities, landscaping, and stormwater treatment management, and a conditional use and permit approval in accordance with section 10.1112.14 of the zoning ordinance to allow 12 parking spaces where 22 are required. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 144, Lot 23, and lies within the Character District 4L2 and Historic Districts.
Me again.
All right.
Eric Weinberg with Altus Engineering. And also with me is Jeff Dyer, the applicant, and Michael Bree, the owner. We have Derek Durbin in the back, who's the project attorney, and Robert Whitmere, who's the project architect. I think we all know this tax map 144, lot 23, the former Getty Station at 361 Islington Street. We've been before the city for several approvals on that site, Wrap Shack, auto detailing, as well as some other stuff that just never went forward or wasn't very successful. So we're here now to convert the former gas station to a bagel shop. We believe that the project will improve the vitality to the site, to the neighborhood, and it will eliminate the abandonment feel to that corner. We do see that it's a challenging site because we're trying to balance preservation and meet the zoning and site plan review objectives. And with this, we've been to the HDC. We got approval from the HDC. We've gotten zoning relief for several items on the property just because of the character district, trying to preserve the building and where the building is located on the lot and not utilizing all the frontage of the parcel. And if we were to meet all the zoning criteria, I think that one is we would have to remove the building, but also I think it would change the character of the neighborhood, and it would not allow us to even come close to meeting parking requirements on this property, just because I don't think that zoning works for this corner lot for this type of use. So when we started looking at the site design, we have an easement for the abutting property on the west, so we had to maintain that egress into the site. We wanted to make sure that we were making the site as safe as possible, so we eliminated the access, which had already been closed off into the gas station closest to Cabot Street from Islington. And then we moved the access as far back onto the lot as possible to create more separation between Islington Street and the entrance on Cabot. And then we went out and looked at the existing 48-inch oak that's in the rear of the site and met with Chris Kemp, an arborist, and we determined that that tree is healthy, and I think it's very much worth saving, and that's drove a lot of our site design, which made it a narrower site getting around the building and the addition area, creating that one-way access, which is what we wanted anyway, but making it a tighter site. We've eliminated a lot of pavement on the site. We've greened it. We've done a lot of landscape improvements and traffic flow improvements and added a formalized parking lot. We've added catch basins and stormwater management devices to treat the runoff with pretreatment with deep sump catch basins, and improve the fact that we're reducing runoff, but also right now, the water, the site's pretty flat in front, and then it steepens in the rear, but there is no treatment, and it sheds off onto everyone's property untreated. So now we're collecting it, pre-treating it, and putting it into the closed drainage system on Cabot Street. Adding a new grease trap and sewer service, new domestic and fire protection services, new natural gas service from Islington Street, and new underground electric from Islington Street as well. I guess I'll jump into the comments that were provided last night. So as far as Section 7 of the Site Plan Review Regulations, we are incorporating low-impact design development planning, minimizing to the extent possible to reduce runoff volume, maintain pre-development hydrology, and protect water quality in receiving areas. We're reducing impervia, we're adding green space, we're adding pre-treatment, rain gardens and underground storage and infiltration devices are not practical on a former service station property. We're not in a wellhead protection, we're not near wetlands, we're not near the flood hazard zone. We've provided a stormwater management and erosion control plan. We're reducing peak rate and volume of runoff, and we're not disturbing more than 15,000 square feet, so the PTAP requirements are not required. So I believe that we are meeting the goals and requirements of Section 7. Item 2 refers to separate lines for fire protection and domestic water. Our plans indicate that there are two services there. We just drew, for ease of drawing, a single service. You can see that on the utilities plan. So right in the middle of the parking lot, it says two services, but we're just showing a single line there. Item 3 is a comment regarding a crushed stone surface rather than a stone dust surface on the landscape plan for the access ways into the site. And we had a disc plow issue with crushed stone, and it does walk as well. We're fine with whatever this committee recommends.
Can I ask you a question on that? Because I wasn't in the office last week to participate in the comments, but that stuck out to me like not a sore thumb, but it seemed really odd to me that you've got all these concrete sidewalks, as I at least read them on the plans, and most of the connections to the concrete sidewalks in the right-of-way are these crushed stone connectors, and it doesn't make any sense to me why you'd do that versus carry the concrete out to the concrete sidewalk. So I don't know if there's a drainage reason you did that,
No,
or
it
what
wasn't
Terrence was
drainage at all.
thinking.
It was more of
An aesthetic.
an aesthetic. It was.
I think it's more difficult.
It was Terrence.
Yeah. So I personally, I'd love to see you, use the textured surface in there, but that's a much more expensive proposition than the concrete. Use the concrete. It'd be interesting if you dyed the concrete to make it a little more interesting on your own property, not on ours. But if you didn't even do that, continue the gray. I also thought the two crushed stone connectors on the parking lot, they encourage people to park here and use and visit neighbors, go to other properties. I just wonder who's using, or it's encouraging, even if it's only your customers that park there, pedestrians in the neighborhood to cut through your parking lot to get to the front door instead of going along the sidewalk.
And I think that's exactly what he was thinking, was that people will take the shortest path. So instead of them going through the landscaping, give them a place to go.
So I think anybody on Cabot Street's going to cut in anywhere they want. I'm not sure that's going to work. And if I was the operator versus somebody trying to perceive how people are going to use it in desire lines, I would have my landscaping fill in those gaps and direct people more explicitly to your two entrances off of Islington Street. If they're on Cabot, they're coming through the parking lot, but I don't know that they're always going to go to one spot just because it's amongst the ground cover.
I mean, I see your point. I also could see someone walking down Islington and coming to the site and going through the landscape area and then cutting that first corner straight into the site.
And I don't disagree, but I don't know that we want to encourage people to walk through a parking lot to get to the front door. You know, if they got a stroller or whatever else, it's inviting that to happen.
We can remove them.
Anyway,
and we can make it hardscape.
That's all. Just
Perfect.
Hardscape? No.
No, I mean,
Landscape.
the
two
other
connectors, yeah.
will make it hardscape.
Yeah,
and then-
I mean, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I'm observing. But
Just do it.
can I add a few more things on the landscape plan, or do you want me to wait till he's done?
You go ahead.
You go ahead?
Yeah, sure.
Just while we're there, I'm not a big fan of the crushed stone nosing you've got. I get that Terrence is probably thinking things are going to have a tough time growing at the ends of some of those
Yeah.
sections. Personally, rather than see something with crushed stone, again, I'm taking the eyes of an operator here, and the curb appeal of my business. I'd put ground cover in there. I'd put ivy or something in there just to green it up, even though, and you can beat upon a lot of plants like that with salt and snow, but you won't just have stones rolling out into your parking area in your driveway over where you're connecting to the neighbor on the left with your easement area, the nose by the tree. Those are and I wondered what you're doing behind your retaining wall down to the abutter. Is that what is it? And if it's just lawn or something?
We're just going to loam and seed it.
Yeah, so I would just note that.
Yep.
Oh, maybe it is and I missed it.
I believe there's asphalt from their site.
It's almost up asphalt all the way up, and that's actually a discussion point
Fine.
further out.
Yeah, I just thought I'd ask. Obviously, the brick, who's doing the improvements on Islington? Are we doing them or are you doing them? You're showing them, the tree boxes and
We
the,
were
All
just
part of the same
showing,
project.
so we're doing it?
Yes.
Yeah,
we
so
were
I,
just trying to make sure that
You're
you
consistent.
understood that we were aware of what's
Yep.
going on. And
so I'm good with that. For what it's worth, drafting-wise, I'd bring your curb to where it's going to go, and it looks like there's some conflicting information at the curb cut coming in as to what we're proposing and what you're proposing, so whatever it is. There's a lot of lines
One
on
thing we
it.
need is the CAD file when they get an approval so that we can import it and we'll build it to meet their plan. Not a problem.
Fine.
what it is we're narrowing up the driveway.
Yeah,
So,
which is good.
It-
So the curb's going to actually go out to your line, right?
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
take
Okay.
care of it.
What?
Take care of it. It's what we do. We build stuff.
All right, otherwise, for what it's worth for me, I think it's a great project. Unlike the approach you took, adaptive reuse, I think you've done a really good job doing that, even though my preference would be to get rid of the whole thing and start over. That's not what you're doing, and that's not what you got approved. So I think it's a great reuse of an eyesore and a blighted building on Islington Street. So I applaud you for that, and I just want to thank you for, you, Eric, for the first time, and your client also for the first time, recognizing that, the importance of that 48-inch tree, and how great it is you've narrowed down the traffic aisle to one way. I appreciate comments from the public on that as well, because I think we all missed that repeatedly when you came in with the other proposals, and that tree will probably handily survive all this work, given its age and health.
Considering it paved right up to it right now.
Correct. So, thanks for that. I'm done. You want to keep going on?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
We can make a change on the plan to make sure that it's in Certa-T. And we can also add plant notes to the plans indicating that the water service will be cut at the street. That was our intent. It is added as a note. And we can also work with Jamie to get the as-built locations for those water services and the existing sewer service, and hopefully we can utilize those. We'll make sure that Terrence revises details and notes to ensure that the cage and burlap are removed from the tree plantings. And number 8 is trying to wrap my head a little bit around the request to change from 14-foot pole down to 12 on.
Just want somebody to sign off that poles are going to be low enough that it's not going to be shining in windows.
So,
and I understand you picked a special pole, and it seems like a very nice lighting fixture. But I just want to be out there so that we set it. Make sure, double sure, that we're not going to get complaints about lead lights.
So there's no spill beyond the property lines. We have cutoffs. We understand, regardless of where you are, if you look out, you can still see the light. But there, I can't put up curtains around the property. So, and I'm not sure what effect the 2-foot will change, but our concern is when because the poles don't throw a lot of light, so that when we drop it by 2 feet.
It's not a mandate, it's a comment, and we just want to make sure that somebody looked at it.
It was looked at.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to keep them.
Okay.
And then number 9 is the maneuverability around the site and our and the retaining wall in our. What we did when we laid out that retaining wall is we looked at the existing fence that is on the abutting property to the north, and we didn't want to cut off any of that fence. And you also look at the abutters driveway encroaches onto this property, and so we didn't want to take away any of that driveway. So what we can do, we can actually remove part of the fence that's on our property, and we can move a little bit closer to the northerly property line with the retaining wall, gain about a foot. And that will, I think, meet the goals of what I think you were looking for, Eric, with that. Would that suffice?
Yeah, I mean, because you don't want vehicles going back there and getting stuck or hitting the wall, damaging the vehicle, damaging the wall, something like that. It needs to be usable. It needs to be realistic.
Okay. So if we move it a foot, you think you're okay?
As long as the vehicles are small enough to get through there, yeah. I mean, you never know what size vehicle you're going to get attempting to make a maneuver back there.
Well, or they line themselves up improperly. That's just the fact of.
Yeah.
Can you chamfer the corner of that tote enclosure a little bit? Make it easier for them to get around the inside corner?
Yeah, we could do something like that.
Just take a look at that. That'd be great.
I think that's a viable alternative as well.
So certainly it's more desirable to have them drive around the building rather than back out onto Islington, but
yes,
they have to be able to make the turn.
Agreed. So I think that brings us to item 10 in the conditional use permit. So we've put together, I think, a very thorough explanation of the need for the conditional use permit and why we're, I think, meeting the requirements of the property. Yes, we do assume that the Foundry Garage will be used. I believe that it's much closer to the site than a lot of the properties along the downtown waterfront. The intent would be for employee parking. It wouldn't be, I do not anticipate any patrons would ever park at the Foundry Garage and come to the site. I do disagree that two-wheeled transportation is not a year-round option. I believe it absolutely is. This morning, I saw 3 middle school kids biking down Middle Street. On the way over here, I saw a bike parked in front of the Clipper Tavern, and I'm pretty sure I saw an e-bike parked in front of the building here today coming in. So it is a year-round option. It's not something that works in inclement weather, but it is a year-round option. And I think that we're providing more parking than 2 similar uses on Islington Street, and I don't think that there's any significant issues with either of those properties. So I really think that we meet the requirements of the conditional use permit. I'm done. Do you have anything, Jonathan?
No, you covered it well. Thank you.
All right, any questions or comments from TAC members? Pat?
The canopy area, that's going to be outdoor seating?
Yes.
Is there anything that would protect the people in the outdoor seating from vehicles for parking?
Robert, you want to talk to it a little bit?
Sure. Hello, Robert Whitemeyer with Winter Holben. So the question's about seating, how to protect the people underneath the canopy?
Yeah, from the people, there's parking spaces that they would be pulling
Well, we
in.
have, it's all curbed all the way around there to begin with. We have anticipated outside of just the columns that support the canopy between the street and the seating. As you can see, that planter bed there, which will have some fairly, I forget exactly what Terrence had in there, but they're not daisies. There'll be something a little larger for sure. Between the parking and the seating on the right-hand side, we're anticipating basically a planter box slash sort of standing rail in that area. And yeah, I mean, that's basically the anticipated impediments between somebody. I mean, if somebody really wants to do it, we don't have like bollards all the way in through the ground or anything along those lines. Outside of like between, we've got like some lighting poles, some short ones anticipated between the motor scooters parking and the seating areas. I cut you off there. Go for it.
No, I think it's drawn on this as a rope enclosure. If I'm
Yeah, it's what we have shown is some sort of enclosure.
Yeah, I mean, I could foresee a planter of some sort to match the fencing in the back, or something that's low enough that's, certainly much more of an impediment than a rope.
Well, what are your concerns, Patrick, and what would you like seen there?
Well, I mean,
It'd be nice if there was a bollard right in front of each parking space.
People jump in the curb.
yeah.
I've seen it quite a few times.
I've seen it.
There's a, seriously?
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
run right through the wall of the bank. I've seen it twice in 7
Went through the
years.
wall,
Happened in
thank you.
Stratham.
we're not going to want every parking space in Portsmouth to have a bollard on the end of it. You got to raise curb, you got to want to go over that, to go over it.
I don't think that's the case, because I've been on a few of those calls.
Understood,
You
but
hit the
can
wrong
you
pedal,
imagine?
that's all.
That's exactly what happened. You hit the wrong pedal.
Pretty rare, but
I mean, it's two.
Right.
It would be two bollards.
So this
You could
part,
put cages.
but this one doesn't. So maybe that handicap sign, just you put a bollard right there.
Well, they do
Like the
have,
ones in front of City
you
Hall.
have a bollard.
they do have a bollard on the handicap.
We
side.
have a bollard in front of the handicap space, so it really only leaves on the right side of vehicular or automobile, that one space where the cursor is, and there's a curb in front of that one.
How about the,
On the motorcycle side, we do not have curbing there due to grading
oh, those are
issues.
motorcycles on the side.
Yeah.
Death by moped.
Just like Market Square.
Right.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
So it's for that one, I would say for that one space is really what it sounds like your concern is.
Yeah, I mean, if you could just do something that would stop a vehicle. It doesn't have to be every space. But certainly that space would probably be a nice,
We could put a bollard in front of that one space and maybe label it Employee of the Week or Customer
You
of
said
the
the
Week.
employees are going to park at the fountain.
That's why I said, started to say Customer of the Week.
it could be in front of the space, could be on the other side of the sidewalk, and however you want to design something that looks good. But it's, if it was parallel to the sidewalk as opposed to perpendicular, it wouldn't be an issue. It's, you get cars pulling directly in to people who aren't paying attention, where the people who are walking on the sidewalk are paying attention.
Yeah.
We could hide a surprise in that planner.
You could do that, too.
Nick, what I've seen twice only is that look behind you, they think they're in reverse, and they give it gas, and they go right forward, and that's how it's happened historically, but,
I mean, I get that. Parrot Ave, everywhere has that
now we have an
condition.
opportunity, right, we got a new application,
That was the last time my father drove. And I took his license the next day.
Really?
We drove over Terrence's stone dust.
I literally drove into a restaurant.
Well, she wrote about that.
I'd rather see you go to vertical granite and start.
We have vertical granite.
There's vertical granite there.
On that side, yes.
What's the reveal, an inch and a half? That's what it sounds
It's a
like.
7-inch reveal.
Yeah, so how are you getting over that? Without an on-ramp?
You think you're pushing on the brake, and you apply pressure as though you're pushing on the brake,
All right.
and you push on the gas. That's how, we've
It
seen
happens.
vehicles inside buildings in Portsmouth before.
We'll make it pretty.
We'll do something there. Do you have other questions for us?
I do have one more. It's the bike parking.
Yes,
That's on crushed stone as well.
yes.
Do you
And
want
how-
that
on a different surface.
Or, I mean, I'm not thrilled with that location. How do they propose to get to that location if you're on a bike?
So they'll come down Islington Street from one side or the other, and they will get onto the sidewalk and then walk their bike on the sidewalk.
Because you know that it's not legal to ride a bike on a sidewalk, correct?
That is why I said they will walk their bike on the sidewalk.
It'd be, somewhere closer to the front door would be preferable.
It's a tight site, and you have the canopy, and it takes away from some of the seating area outside, and so we thought it was a fairly welcoming spot with that wider walkway entering the site.
Yeah, if you could just make a hard surface, that would be better.
Yeah, the pavers.
Consider it done.
Yeah. Perfect.
So your parking CUP, can I ask a question about that?
I
know we talked about it already, but I'm bringing it up again. So your solution is that people are going to ride their bikes and mopeds,
And there's going to be, it's more of a neighborhood feel. A lot of people are going to be walking here.
have you considered finding a place for like employee parking off-site or something to reduce the demand?
I think that's the intent is to have the employees park in the garage.
Okay. I mean, it's not our decision, it's the planning board's decision, and they're pretty tough on those, so I just wanted to make sure you're ready for a close scrutiny on it.
Yep. And this neighborhood has been going through the neighborhood parking program in recent years, and it's a very high priority issue for this neighborhood to make sure that their on-street parking is not taken up by other businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eric alluded to it, there's two other businesses on Islington Street that have less parking than this. I think
They're not
that-
going to be before the planning board asks for a conditional use permit.
We understand that, but we look at it and say, is there severe issues with that? And we don't see that.
Yeah, I'm just offering that if you could find, a space they could park in and have it be employee parking off-site, whether it's Foundry Garage or somewhere, that it's not just a recommendation to your employees, but a contract or a arrangement, then it'll go a long way, I think, to help you.
Okay.
Any other comments at this time? If not, we'll open it up for public comment. Would like to speak?
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Good?
Yeah, the tree is the front page.
You want to cut it down now?
What is it? Is this?
They're in order.
All right.
Tree is the top.
Order, the tree is the top.
Tree is the top.
Go for it.
He's got one.
Yeah, what Eric's getting too. I was pretty sure it counted correctly. All right, do you have all your 8x10 glossy photos?
These are not glossy.
I'm sorry, I don't have a glossy printer. Good afternoon. Elizabeth Bratter, property owner, 159 McDonough Street. Any improvements to 361 Islington Street would be celebrated by neighbors. It has looked pretty bad for a long time. The key things brought up repeatedly have been the number of parking spaces, noise, especially at night, and the desire for a neighborhood-friendly business, which a bagel place would be, but a lounge not so much. Each committee or board has the ability to regulate these issues by reflecting on the consequences of the changes and recommendations they make. For example, a UPS and FedEx truck, according to the internet, for home delivery are listed as 7 feet tall, 26 feet long, and 10 feet wide. A side load trash truck can use anywhere from 9 to 14 feet clearance to pick up individual barrels, and then that arm rests next to the side of the truck, either in a pocket. Sometimes they have a really elaborate system where they pocket right in, and otherwise they hang on the outside of the truck by anywhere from 6 to 4 inches. A standard pickup truck that has a 9-foot plow, which is about what most people have. Some people have bigger ones, but the average is 9 feet, may have difficulty clearing that smaller section in the rear of the building when there's 3 inches of snow on the ground. The clearances presented are based on the numbers that are added into a program. So the question is, will 9 feet 6 inches be wide enough? One of the most important things to remember is that this lot is only 15,144 square feet. And according to the plans, over 13,600 will be disturbed. That leaves only 1,544 square feet that won't be disturbed. Where exactly is that? Let's talk about the tree. If you look at the tree picture, it has been surrounded by asphalt and granite for at least 40 years or more, opening up what looks like, if you look at the top, can you slide the picture down a little bit, Peter? Just a smidgen. Thank you. So if you look at the top, it looks like over 17 feet of green space will be added to one side of the tree that has been living for at least 100 years with no green space whatsoever. So it causes one to wonder, will this encourage more surface roots to grow, or will this change its growth onto 361 lot due to there being an uneven access to light, soil, and water? Just something to think about. All right, let's turn the page. Please look at my design plan. The parking spaces on the right are not to scale. Everything else is to scale. It's 1/16 of an inch equals 1 foot. The outside seating, sorry, I take that back. So if you take a minute to look at the design plan, it includes moving the 30 by 17-foot kitchen inside the existing building and expanding some of the dining room into the presented outdoor area. The outdoor seating, if you turn to the next page, but keep that for reference. But this is what was presented, this rendering was presented to the Historic District Commission. What they are showing on this plan is not what was presented, at least my understanding of it. The outdoor seating area is about 1,200 square feet. It's listed as 1,183. That's bigger than an allowed ADU and bigger than many single-family homes in Portsmouth. The green space that's presented is about 595 square feet, which is about the size of a micro apartment, which would be great because I'm all about green space, except the needed parking is not even close to the very minimum. They're supposed to have 22 spaces. They're showing you 12. On top of that, the presented seating area, although it's proposed for only 31 people, which is about 38 square feet per person, shows 9 to 9. You can see on there, there's 9 to 12 seats for a proposed lounge, and that's how it's listed on this thing, that's going to be a lounge. And there's at least 5 6-person tables. That is a rendering, but that seems like a lot of space. The most interesting thing for me about this rendering is that all the venting is shown on that addition at 695 square feet, which is less than 15 feet from a residential property line. Now, it could be 32 feet if they used my plan. Even if they just reconfigured it, it would protect the neighbors and their cars from the noise, smell, and grease. Those vents are going to be pulling grease above the building. It's a 1-story building. It sits higher. It sits just a little bit higher than the land below, which sits about 3 feet lower. So that grease is going to naturally go there. So it's just something for you to keep in mind. The basic reconfiguration of moving the kitchen into the original building could yield 85 square feet more for the kitchen bathroom area, which is enough room to put lockers or an enclosed coat rack for the employees. And it would also allow for a safer egress from the kitchen if there was a fire. Because if you look at the plans of the kitchen, they show 2 bathrooms and the kitchen and then a small door to get out. This would allow for a larger door in case of a fire. It could allow for the use of the original SUR plan. So if you go to the next page, I did some artsy crafty stuff because I know you guys love it. The first page is the site preparation, and the second page is the sewer line. If you hold it up, I made it dark so that you can see the proposed sewer line is further up and closer to the tree. So if you look at that, it would allow for the original sewer line. Right now, there's, from what I understand, and I'm not an engineer, the original sewer water pipe to become a new separated sewer line, and it would move it a little further from the proposed location, which is about 9 feet away from those roots of that tree. It would still keep the proposed water pipe about 10 feet away from the new sewer pipe, thereby meeting the regulations which are found on Plan C4, page 14, which is the next page of this thing. It tells you that they have to be 10 feet away. So if you move that, keep the sewer line where it originally was, it's going to be capped according to this site plan thing. You could move the sewer line there. It would still be coming off of there, and if you look at the plan that I drew, you're going to move that green space out of there. You're going to put 5 parking spaces in the back. You're going to move the green space and move the grease trap, and it's going to be right where that sewer line goes. It's going to be perfectly lined. There'll be none of that kinky stuff that's going on. It's going to come straight out. We all know pipes like to be straight. At the HDC meeting on November 2nd, 2022, the existing size of both the garage and the canopy were provided. That's this page. That's Plan AE11. However, the new plans, if you just turn it over to the back, show the layout of the outdoor seating, but not any lengths, widths, or uses are marked. Now, they already told you on another page that that side is going to be a bar, but it doesn't. What's going to be a lounge, whatever you need for bagels, and having a lounge, I'm not really sure. Maybe they're going to have recliners there. But there's going to be a lounge there, and the other side is going to be outdoor seating, but there's no reference as to what the use is going to be. Please encourage 361 Islington Street to maximize protections from noise for neighbors, maintain at least the minimums as the latest business, which was Liar's Bench. They provided all 26 parking spaces to this area and do not allow them to add a lounge when there are already 2 breweries within 2 to 3 blocks of this proposed establishment, which both have had many noise complaints over the years because they too have the sliding glass doors that are garage doors that open all the way up, and these sit directly across from 2 residential homes. Thank you for your time and consideration and reflection on the consequences of the recommendation and changes made by this committee.
Thank you, Liz. Any other comments, public comment? Let me check Zoom. Not word. No one on Zoom or Word? Any other? All right. So we'll close the public comment portion. Any other comments, discussion amongst TAC?
I did, Liz had mentioned the delivery van being 26, and that's what I've seen as well, as a 26 is a standard size for a van, where they're showing 21 on this turning diagram. So it'd be great if you can get a 26-foot van, unless that's...
We looked, and that's pretty much the largest that we're expecting to be able to maneuver the site, and we're going to have to work with that. It's 26 is not going to work at all with the building addition.
No.
Shanti?
Yeah, maybe this was addressed earlier, but the grease trap is under the snow storage, is that right?
Possibly.
So how can you have both? In other words, if you needed to service the grease trap,
Then they would
I guess so. Yeah, frozen ice.
shovel,
frozen
or
ice.
the fact that the heat off that concrete, that cast iron cover is probably going to melt it pretty quick.
So it's a snow melting area.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What are the hours of operation?
That might be on the plan set, but I can't remember.
I did a quick look. I couldn't find it, so just point me in that direction.
The
Go ahead.
The intent is not to, it's definitely not a late night place, for sure. I mean, general use is going to be a, bagel shop and kind of sandwich shop into their early evening hours. And it's hard to pigeonhole what a business is going to be till it fully starts, so the intent is to not be a late night
We didn't
operation.
prove that.
Okay, so as of right now, it's not really a dinner spot.
No.
Thanks.
Good. Any other comments? Pat?
Just to
Yep.
address the fire safety concerns that were brought up. They're putting a sprinkler system in this building, and the egress certainly will be meeting the building fire codes. So, certainly it's safe.
Yeah, we have a separate
Yeah.
service, so there will be sprinkled.
Uh, the- No real concerns would be safer than it was before. Certainly safe.
I can comment on the grease trap concerns that were brought up. It is grease-laden water waste off of washed dishes or prepared food. It would be then collected in this grease trap. It would not travel up and out of any vents, if that is a large concern, but it would be maintained in this interceptor.
It's not the grease trap, it's the vents on the ceiling, on the roof that have grease in them. When you suck up. When you have grease, when you cook French fries, is a big no.
Are you making the bagels there? Yeah, okay, yeah.
I don't believe that the business is a deep fried type business that it's going to be a very little grease that generated from this property. So I don't think in their vents and you're going to have a lot of food odors. It's more steam from the bagel process.
Yeah, the hood is really acting as a conduit for the heat from the oven to get out of the building more than anything.
Do you have an existing location somewhere else?
No.
All right.
It's currently test kitchen in our homes. They're good.
Good. Good. Yeah, it's a nice reuse of the property.
We think so.
I'll just point out that there will be another conditional use permit that's required, and that's for the outdoor seating, outdoor dining. I think the applicant's aware, but it didn't need to come before TAC, but that will be
For the planning board.
for the planning board.
Okay. Any other questions of us?
Are we all set?
I think so.
I'll make a motion to approve, recommend approval.
With the changes discussed today? to the
Yeah, what
landscape
were the
plan?
stipulations? The bollard?
Fortifying the parking lot?
The gravel changes, they were going to look at changing the gravel.
Yep.
And then the landscape area, to change that out to some kind of ground cover.
In addressing the
Sidewalk,
the drainage and
connectors.
sewer comments.
And moving the retaining wall back a foot.
Yeah.
And Nick's going to shovel the snow.
Yep.
Top of it.
Does that include all of the comments discussed from staff?
Some of them didn't apply because of the light.
Yeah, I think just the
Sure, but the ones
stipulations is
you
right up.
noted you'll revise or add
Correct.
notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll look at the revisions before planning board too, I guess.
We're committed to that.
I do have one question. For the Chapter 7 stormwater regulations or site plan review regulations, do we need that in writing or on the plan or anything, or is the verbalization that they need it adequate?
That's adequate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we have those stipulations clearly enough? You want me to go through them again? If I can remember.
I think I got them, but
Okay.
if you want to,
No, I don't know if I got them either.
okay, I got
think
them.
I got them. So it's the landscaping, the gravel, the wall movement, the bollard. I think that's it.
Lighting not to be a nuisance.
Lighting not to be a nuisance,
Dark
yeah.
sky compliant.
That was in the comments.
The wall, which wall
The
was that?
retaining wall behind the
Move
building
north
is going to move back a foot, or towards the property line a foot.
I think that's everything. Does there want to be any review on the bollard placement?
No.
No.
And it doesn't have to be a bollard, just vehicle protection from that space.
Oh, I got a question. The Getty sign, what's happening with that on the corner? It says relocated by city, but is that staying or?
So
You have to move it aside.
it has to
From
move,
that
it's in the easement that
Yeah,
Mike
absolutely.
granted the city when we were going through permitting earlier. And your signal's going in this season. And so my understanding, having a discussion with Dave, is that if we show a location for it, the contractor for Islington Street will put it in that location.
The same sign?
Same sign will be refaced.
Does that need the easement to be renewed or adjusted?
No, that's,
No, the
it's
easement-
good.
Goodness to us.
Right,
Place.
it's good? Okay.
Yeah.
It's within the easement area?
Well, your signal will be in the easement area. Our sign will be moved out of the easement area.
Okay.
They can't be in the same spot.
Yeah, but we don't need to change the easement language?
No.
Okay.
No, we'll just pluck it out and put it down where they tell us to.
And it won't say Getty.
It will not.
Like to eat here and
Eat your
get,
bagel.
Get a bagel.
eat here and get gas, right?
There used to be a place like that.
All right. Any other stipulations? We all set? So Peter made the motion. Was there a second?
Nope.
Second.
Second from Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, what? Well, they'll need at least administrative approval to do it.
All right, last but certainly not least, the request of Brandon Kunkel, applicant and the City of Portsmouth owner for property located at 305 Greenland Road, requesting site plan review approval for the construction of a 19,500 square foot skateboard park, including walkways and a 25-space parking lot with associated site improvements. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 241, Lot 18, and lies within the municipal district. Welcome.
Great, thank you. It's great to be here this afternoon and to discuss this project with you. We did receive the comments. I believe the expectation is we'll just work through them and have discussions as appropriate. So just off the top of the head, top of the list, number one, confirm the existing catch basin to be reset, can accept an additional 12-inch HDPE pipe. My civil engineer says yes, it can, based on the size of the existing structure.
Brandon, you guys haven't presented here, right?
We have not.
Would you mind just going through the...
Overview of the
Oh, I'm
project.
sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay, just to...
Yeah, no trouble.
Those other guys that were in front of you, they had been before us a couple times.
Nope, no trouble. I apologize. Sure. So this is a skate park that the city is looking to provide to the community. It will, as it was noted, approximately nearly 20,000 square foot skate park. It is really the first phase of a intended to be multiple phase program at the end, including a bicycle BMX pump track, called a half rectangular field for small pickup recreational style games, as well as additional parking and a future trailhead for the Boston and Maine Railroad connection up at the north side. Currently, the site is being used for city projects by a contractor for staging. That's with the giant mounds of dirt that you see on the survey to the north of the project area. The intention is that he will be allowed to use the site until this project is completed, and then ultimately he will remove any material or his materials from the site to be back to the original condition prior to him being on site. It does include a 25 space parking area, as well as sidewalk from Greenland Road into the site and then down to the skate park area. We are going to be providing the empty conduits for future lighting of the skate park, so that when the city does have the funds available, they are able to install the footings and light pole stanchions for the skate park itself. We are also currently in the midst of a alteration of terrain application with the state, so they are also aware of this project as well. Any questions at this point? All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, no trouble. The existing catch basin, and I believe it's the one that is along Greenland Road. I apologize. Actually, no. It's well, I guess maybe that perhaps is the confirmation. But if we were to zoom in a bit, there's an existing catch basin.
We go to utility plan.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Next one. Right there's perfect. And then towards the parking lot.
On the left.
Correct. So down by, and this will address a few of the comments, So there's a note down by reset existing catch basin. I believe that's the catch basin that's being referred to. It is a quite large structure currently. It's already got a 24-inch pipe coming into it, and I suspect that's why the concern is it large enough? But given the inverts and elevations, we believe that where we're coming in on the opposite side of the 24-inch, we believe there's enough room to accommodate an additional 12-inch. We will show all electrical connections to the cabinet, either conduit or overhead. They will be conduits. We did add them to the plan already. We are going to come from the utility pole. We will get the utility pole number and add that to the plan as well. I believe that was one of the comments. And this will allow for when the city's able to get lighting and provide the power, they will have all the infrastructure in place. We will extend the curbs up just beyond the gate to ensure that people are not driving around the gate. I know there's been some internal discussions related to the Contact CDS unit that we're currently proposing. My understanding is that that's actually been okayed related to whether or not it's Contact or another product type. But it does meet the requirements of the stormwater treatment. So we plan on keeping it as a Contact at this point unless there's concerns related to that. So the original design was not intended to treat Greenland Road. I know there is a inlet coming off of Greenland Road and it ties into that reset catch basin. However, we can move the Contact system to be just downstream of that, so we are now treating the road as part of this project. It will get slightly larger to accommodate the road, but that is fine. It's a win-win, I think, for everybody. We will change the detail of the gravel parking lot. The city's going to provide the recycled asphalt pavement topping, so we'll adjust the profile, and that will be brought in by the city and placed by the contractor. The stormwater design does adhere to the treatment of the size of the development, as well as the nitrogen requirements as well. And I guess perhaps if someone could elaborate a little bit on the nitrogen treatment. So we believe between the Contact as well as the swale that runs along Greenland Road and the management of the city and their organic fertilizers, that we are managing the nitrogen appropriately. But I guess if there's other concerns beyond that, we're happy to hear that. We will provide a mark at the end of the conduit for the future cabinet and transformer. No trouble there. We have already added the 2 5-inch conduits from the utility pole, as I noted. We will make a note on the tree planting detail that all burlap is to be removed entirely. We've increased the driveway radius to allow for larger vehicles to turn in, particularly during construction. The existing contractor will maintain access to the site, or his portion of the site, but also at the end for emergency vehicle purposes. We will add additional seating outside of the skate park area. That's a great comment. Thank you. We'll add a few benches on concrete pads. We'll also add some bike racks near where the accessible parking comes into the walkways down to the skate park. There is a comment here related to, please explain the layout of the parking lot. And I'm not exactly sure what that is inferring, but
I think it's the end.
Yeah, so we've modified that as well already, and it's related to a snow storage. So we've basically have just continued to where the hammerhead ends and just provided a giant square for snow storage in that general vicinity at the end of it.
So the curves go away and it's just one
So
big
currently, there is no curbing beyond the entrance of the parking lot.
Can you go to
So
the
what is
plan?
that at the end?
The plan that shows this one, Peter?
The flared section at the end.
It's like-
So that was just a gravel turnaround hammerhead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you really need that versus just a short connector off the end of the driveway that maybe goes 10, 15 feet?
So there's another comment related to snow storage, so we just have basically gotten rid of the hammerhead, and it's just a big square
I
at the
see.
end now.
Well, can you park in there? So does it just extend the parking then, because none of it's really marked?
Correct. It
The
would.
whole area is just flush gravel, the whole
Correct.
area, so it doesn't
Informal
matter.
parking, yeah.
You can roll right off, and you
Right.
can turn around anywhere you want to, and
Right. Well, that makes
it's
more
just,
sense
it's all
than that.
gravel.
Yeah. We are going to add a bathroom porta-john canopy with accessible porta-john at the site. It'll be located, in the future, there's actually intended to be a smaller pavilion between the triangular sidewalk area and the skate park. We'll put it generally within that vicinity of the triangle area, just so it's accessible for cleaning and maintenance from that perspective. So it'll be between the parking lot and the skate park itself. And then maybe this goes to your question. Please explain how the flow of traffic will work inside the park, including beginner areas, spectator areas, and crossing into the middle shaded section, I guess. So there'll be asphalt paved sidewalks, ADA accessible. The majority of the skate park is actually pretty flat. The big rectangular square in the middle is a shade pavilion. The pavilion will be an alternate, giving where we are currently within the budget, but it is intended to be installed if it can be within the budget. But the large rectangular portion, the central core of the skate park, is very flat for beginner learning. There are some walls. I am not the skate park designer, full disclosure, so I'm happy to follow up with additional details. I know it's been well vetted by the city, as well as the skate park committee that's been formed to support this project. I do know there are plenty of seat walls within the skate park itself for sitting, but also skating. And then, in general, I know the skate park designer is very aware of the ADA requirements. I have to imagine it is meeting the requirements for accessibility as outlined here. But if there's further detail that is required or additional questions, I'm happy to follow up, and we can have him be part of that conversation.
I have a quick question before you maybe move on. How are you edging that bituminous sidewalk from the parking and everything else? Is there an edge, or is
There is a guardrail on the inside of the asphalt sidewalk to prevent cars from driving in.
Okay, so along between the parking space and the sidewalk, there's a guardrail?
No, it's on the backside of the sidewalk.
So it's to prevent people from getting into the skate park?
Correct.
Not driving right, so there's no edge, it's flushed, the gravel to the
Correct.
sidewalk? Right there, there's your classic. That's not the safest condition. I would agree in that case, if they're at grade with nothing separating the sidewalk from the parking.
We can
probably want at least bumpers or something in the lot along that edge to keep the cars off the sidewalk, at least on the left bay
Or
there.
would you be amenable to moving the guardrail to the front of the sidewalk?
It's probably better.
Okay.
Right? Right.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about people who are watching and paying attention, but certainly it would be better, more safe to have it between the pedestrians and the cars.
So we will move the guardrail to be that edge between the parking and that sidewalk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Give it a foot.
Yep. Yeah, I think the sidewalks are 8 feet wide at the moment. So plenty of room.
So I know you said that there's a future plan to connect to the railroad. Is there, I guess people just find their way from there over to here, or they go up to, do you have a sense of how that'll work?
Well, ultimately, there will be continued sidewalk up to the upper north corner, but it's currently not part of this project.
Can they get through there, though, if they wanted to walk on gravel or
Yes.
dirt? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and there'll be a pathway, probably 10 feet wide, that goes down the road.
Great.
So it's not structured at this point, but it'll be there.
So they'll be able to find it that way?
Yep.
And ultimately, there will be a kiosk to sort of serve as a trailhead.
Oh, great.
Is there somewhere where the next phase plans live? Could those be provided? Just
Sure.
so we could see what the plans are, understanding it could change.
Sure. Yeah, there is a master plan that was performed by the city. I assume they're public documents.
Yes, I can provide those.
Probably on the website. Are they on the website? Is there?
They probably are, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Maybe you already answered this, but did you address comment number 16? Will there be security fencing around
I did not comment, I missed that. But the answer is, currently there is not intended to be fencing around the skate park area.
And how deep are the bowls, the concrete bowls?
The deepest bowl is about 6 feet.
Oh, it's only about 6 feet, okay.
All things considered, they're relatively shallow in the skate park world, I guess.
Is that a concern for anyone, animals, a deer, is getting down inside there? I mean, it happened in my swimming pool, right? I don't know. It would seem like you'd have some sort of a perimeter to keep, but can they get out? I guess I haven't really looked at the layout. Maybe there's like a rollout and.
So it's hard to tell in the plan, and again, I'm not the skate park designer, but up in the corner where you see the kidney,
The 3D images might be good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to look for.
There you go. I believe the bowl is sort of terraced. It's two different elevations. There's a shallow side and a deep side, much like a swimming pool.
Got it. So you probably get out of there pretty easy.
It goes from, 6 feet at the deepest, and then I think the shallower is about 3 feet.
Okay. All right.
I guess I'm a little concerned about access for an ambulance in that area. I mean, we wouldn't need our larger apparatus getting further in the parking lot, I don't think, but.
So there is I believe it's approximately 12 feet wide. If you were to go back to the overall site plan, or at least the plan we were looking at with the drainage, that would, where the ADA parking is going to be, that's about 12 feet wide in between the guardrails. Is that wide enough?
Yeah,
Right here?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, that's wide enough to get through.
If the spaces are empty.
Well, that's true, too. We would want to be able to get to different areas of the park. Or at least up to the gate, the main gate of the park, and get out again without backing up, if possible.
Maybe you should widen out the handicap spaces and have a wider striped area there, so it's always open.
A dedicated access.
12 feet wide.
Okay.
Yeah. That works.
Do not park.
Should work.
Yeah.
just crosshatch it so nobody parks there.
Yeah. And then that's kind of where maybe understanding the future plans, you know, what else is going out there and how it connects and how we're going to be able to get out there if we need to for injuries or whatnot out there. Again, just I can get our specs for the ambulance to you.
Okay.
To give to the designer.
Okay.
So just to clarify, Pat, at this point, Peter, can you come up,
to the mic.
please?
And just state your name.
Just, Peter Rice, Director of Public Works. Just to clarify, that master plan hasn't been fully developed, and our intent is not to have this be that master plan. So we understand the desire to have access to the skateboard park, and we'll make sure that happens. But in terms of informing this discussion, I wouldn't hang your hat on, you know, what the master plan, I mean, we're showing an identified project in the future. It's an out-year project. It's not a near-term project.
And all we're worried about right now is this project. I'm just looking to, for ease later on, you know, to build it so that it lends itself for your future expansion. Just, but that's you know, for you guys to figure out. I mean,
Yeah.
as long as we can get to where
I
what's
just didn't
being
want
used
to
now, we're fine.
digress to a future project that, you know, we'll make sure that that project accommodates access.
All right, sounds good.
Any other comments at this time? Anyone from the public like to make any comments?
Yeah. Oh, please, you first. Closer to the mic.
Come up to the mic. Just come to the microphone.
Introduce yourself, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Great. Andy Sherburne, 1821 Islington Street. We're a butter to the property. I just have a couple of concerns. I'd say that the first concern I have is traffic ingress, egress out of this site. I think if you talk to the contractors or even some of the staff in the Public Works Department, that area there in Islington, or 33 intersection of Islington and Middle Road is dangerous. You've got traffic coming westbound, 2 lanes facing the entrance to that. You have 2 lanes eastbound, one turns down Islington and the other one goes straight, and then you also have Islington coming up with a right-hand turn. So you've got all this in that small, within 150, 200 feet of that entrance. I just think if anybody's going, you know, when you go to those lights on Middle Road to Route 33, you've got 2 lanes, you've got 2 cars side by side racing to go to the one lane that goes over the bridge. You know, to me, you've got, and I think you can probably concur with that or add to this, you've got 16 to 21-year-old, 22-year-old youth driving out of that area there, and it's difficult. I mean, you know, I talked to the guys at Severino, and sometimes the trucks have to wait 10, 15 minutes to get out of there. You know, so I just think there's got to be some change there. I mean, obviously you can't change that site, but maybe you can just do right turns only out of the site and make it safer. I'm just afraid that there's going to be an accident there. And I don't know what the traffic count is. You know, I looked at the brief little study here, and it just said you've got a sight line of 450 feet or greater. Well, you may, but you have cars going at probably at 40 plus miles an hour. You've got traffic turning in different directions, coming off Islington Street, coming onto 33. I just think it's a dangerous intersection right there with the potential of problems. And I'd rather see it addressed now than have an accident and then in the future you go back and say, well, we should have done something different. I mean, it's a tough spot. I mean, it really is, and I don't know what else you can do with it. The other concern that I've got is that we've got 25 parking spaces roughly. What's going to keep more traffic from going in there in terms of at the end of that parking area? Is there going to be a gate there for, you know, to block it off, or can they just drive around it? And I'm also thinking about people that want to use the rail trail, because we have people going into our yard asking us where the rail trail parking is. And, you know, maybe we can make a little extra money, you know, a little parking lot back there. But seriously, I think you're going to have a lot of people that are looking for that rail trail and they want to use it. If they figure the skateboard people can be in there, why can't they be there parking and then get access to it? Other questions I've got. Drainage. Okay, so you've got this system with this new CDS thing, and I think the idea of picking up the middle road catch basins is really good, and I don't know how much more that's going to cost, but and you indicate that it says clean water is going to be coming out of this 24-inch pipe that goes into the city pond. What is clean water? I mean, is it something that you can just take a glass to and start drinking, or is it hydrocarbons and nitrogen and some of these other things are taken out, but it still isn't clean enough technically to be drinking water? Is that, I don't know how that system is. And that's my question, is how clean is the water that's going to go into that pond?
So this is just a public comment session, we're not, we don't
okay.
typically answer questions.
Okay, well, all right, that's fine.
We could take it into
Then-
consideration,
Then
certainly.
I say,
It's
maybe you should look at
important,
how clean the water is going into the pond.
Yeah, no, that's,
And then think about what that pond is. I mean, this whole area, I mean, when I was a kid, 100 years ago, we used to play in the quote, stump dump, the gravel pit. It was water down at the bottom of that. It was a pond. And then during the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, they ended up filling it up with stumps and everything else. Now, the problematic the problem with this whole area is that for a period of about from the mid-70s, well, actually the early 70s to the mid-80s, that was an unregulated landfill. There was no public works control. There was no gate. People would just come in there and dump anything. And it didn't matter when they dumped it. It could be Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, or anything. So you have to think a little bit about the site itself in terms of overall aquifer and everything, because I remember in the mid-'80s, I have pictures of, I think, a stove and refrigerator and 55-gallon drums sticking out of piles that were actually over our property. So I'm just saying that is, unregulated. It was an unregulated landfill that never was closed, even though it was supposed to be closed. And I don't know how you would close it. And there was never any, what do you call it, a barrier, waterproof barrier underneath it. So anyways, I think the traffic and quality, the control of the environment is the most important thing to us. And one other thing, sorry. But the other question, and the other thing is that I don't know how, I just think this is going to be extremely popular. And I think 25 parking spaces may be a little, not as much as is necessary. And I'm just wondering what accommodations are going to be made for if there's overflow parking that, needs to do. There's no place on that road you're going to park. Maybe people at the ball field, but then that's really busy too. So, I mean, it's a nice, it's a busy area. And I think, personally, I think Peter might think that I would be here against the skateboard park, but I think it's really necessary for this group of kids, because they really don't have a lot of things going for them, and they really think that this is going to help them out, and they really, I think it's a great alternative for them, and it's long overdue. And that's why I'm pretty passionate about the traffic going in and out of this site, because there's a lot of blind spots and it's very difficult. So that's my piece right there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Your neighbor who hasn't actually got the
Oh, pleased to meet you.
You as well. Thanks for your comments. So, hey guys, Michael Mandrioli, 1877 Islington Street. My wife Taylor over here. Recent purchasers of that land. And Peter, Mr. Chairman, would you mind going to 366 for me, please?
Sure.
Thank you. There's our little parcel, our humble abode. You can call it Sherburne Island, maybe. Just kind of we're enclosed by their land, but we've only been there since late last year. Been in Portsmouth since about August of 2021, and I just want the record to show that, you know, like Peter, or sorry, like Andy and his family as well, we're definitely not opposed to this at all. We think it's really cool. The drawings are awesome. It's really cool to review this and have it be so close to our property, and also as well, our comments and our concerns, which I'm about to voice with you, have nothing to do with the nature of the sport of skateboarding itself. Just there's no prejudice around that at all. You have to take my word for that. We'd have the same concerns if this was an extra ball field that had parking so close to our property. I know that this is new to me, so I didn't know we couldn't ask questions, but the hours of operation would be one concern for us. I know that there's no lights in the initial plan, but we did see the conduits on the plans, and I would be concerned about the operating hours, and seeing some photonics plans for that light spillage, especially into the back of our property. Is the gate going to be closed after hours so the parking lot cannot be used? For us, that would be a safety concern. Without a fence or any sort of barrier on, I'm not sure what direction it is, that would that be the
North and south.
all right, perfect. That makes it easy. So the east side of the property, of the east side of the parking lot, really, we'd love to see some sort of fencing there, especially one that blocks light and blocks anyone from, like, I would think 6 to 8 feet to prevent people from hopping over it. And, you know, I double dare you to go knock on that door and run back before they say anything. You know, throwing beer bottles into our yard, trying to hit the house, that sort of thing. And again, this has nothing to do with the nature of the sport that we're talking about here. It just has to do with the age group that we're going to be looking at, especially once they get to drive their own vehicles and have access to something fun to do, extracurricular activities that come with being of that age. Soundproofing on the fence would be something else that we think would be a great idea, as far as the parking lot is concerned right there. If possible, moving the parking as far away from that part of the property would be great. I think that if the intention is to eventually make this part of a trailhead for the B&M Railroad Trail, maybe just nestled in north of where the skate park is, it would be great to see, you know, the flow of traffic move over to there. You know, any parking lot tailgating extracurriculars would be, you know, dealt with on the other side of the parcel. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, just the safety of my family there, with the parking lot there, not knowing, you know, wandering or trespassing onto that part of the private lands that are there. Yeah, I mean, trailhead would be great. We'd love to see this, you know, this place used for more than, you know, we haven't been there long enough to see the stump dump, of course, but you know, when we have a great relationship with the construction firm who's working back there, they respect, you know, the operating hours, and you know, I would love to see that, you know, the same be done for a recreational spot. I think that's all I got. But again, let the record show, this is really cool. We're not opposed to this. We're just trying to make it something that, you know, is agreeable for where we live. Awesome.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I don't see anyone else here or on Zoom. So we'll close the public comment portion for now, and open it back up to TAC. Any other comments?
No comment.
Sean?
For what it's worth, I do think this will be very popular, not only for local, but for a lot of kids out of state. I was in that world for many years. I was a skater, and we would travel wherever we could go to find the best spot. And 25 spots seems to me, extremely small. It is what it is. You show up, you can't get in there, you got to find somewhere else to park. So that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be on the city, but I do believe that, a concrete skate park, a lot of design and thought and energy went into this, that it will be popular. Maybe not every day, but I do believe that you'll overflow that parking lot extremely quickly. And then to the point of the, I actually have not looked at the traffic report, and I'm not sure how busy that intersection is, but 2 lanes going out seems like would be ideal, and maybe that's how it was depicted. I didn't see that, but 1 in and 2 out, so you could go left or right. Something to consider, so that when you're trying to leave, it's not so miserable. And then the other thing was regard to lighting. That was a question I was going to put on my comments, but I just figured it was covered. But now, perhaps it's true that there is no lighting at this stage. Okay. So then, of course, there would need to be hours set, because there'd be a serious safety concern that folks are skating, as it does, begin to get dark. I've been to a few parks, and there's really adequate lighting, so you can stay after hours. But lighting, the hours would go along with the lighting with the hours. And then lastly would be, and I understand and respect the concern of an abutter with a commercial use, right next to it, and maybe even some signage, right? Private property, no trespassing, something that would, make the folks that are going to the park realize they got to show some respect. It should be obvious. It is, it is to me, but it's not to everyone. Sometimes just a little bit of signage goes a long way. So that's all I have for comments.
May I speak to a couple of those things? Sure. Thanks. And if you don't know, I'm Todd Henley, Recreation Director. So in terms of the lighting, that project is to be there. There's currently a group that's fundraising for that. So it is not part of the initial project. It is something that we're hoping to have put in later on. However, it would be organized just like we do any of our athletic fields or the tennis courts. So the intention would probably be to have it stay on just like we do our basketball courts and pickleball and things, which would be until 10 p.m. And that wouldn't necessarily be year-round, depending on the weather. But that's the usual schedule that we have for our fields. The other thing was for parking. With the rail trail being slated, I believe, this upcoming year to be paved from the downtown section out there.
I think it's just going to be constructed. I think the paving might come the next year.
Paving might come the next year. So part of the reason why this site was chosen by the committee was for the access to the rail trail and being able to have that paved area to downtown, so it was accessible from the downtown area. So essentially, kids could park anywhere, they could live anywhere in town, and you're taking the rail trail to the park itself. So I think the intention was never that there was going to be, the parking issue might be from out of town folks, like you said, but I think the intention was most people were happy that these kids, their only access, might not be cars, it's on skateboards and bikes, so to be able to get there safely. And then one other just comment about, being able to respect the property and things like that. From working with this group of adults and kids in the skateboard community, they have been really good about, they understand that this is like, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them to get a park like this. And so it is widely been already talked about policing themselves and having these group of people sort of be the stewards of this park and looking out for property owners around the corner and stuff like that, because they know that, if something goes wrong, then it's going to be on them, and they're going to lose out on this beautiful, new park. So I just wanted to throw that in there too.
If I can make a couple comments about the traffic, I mean, based on where the site is, the driveway location is the best it can be, because as you move closer to the railroad, you're going up the hill, but your sight lines are limited. So this location is the best possible site for this driveway for this parcel. Ideally, if we had frontage on Islington, you would come in off of Islington, you'd have a driveway there. But we don't have that, so this is the best location for a driveway. And it's one of the comments we made was make sure their sight lines are open, the vegetation is cleared back so you can see coming out. You have two lanes merging into one, you're going to be using that right turn lane to slow down to come into the site. So that will help alleviate some of that concern. I would not recommend two lanes coming out of the site because then you have side by side and you have the vehicles, one blocking the view of the other. It will take longer to get out in one line, but it's safer to do that in this location. It's not the perfect spot for a driveway, but it's the best we can do with this site under the conditions.
How's everyone feeling? Are there revisions that we want to see? With another submittal?
I think I'm comfortable working with them upline on the side for access. It's probably just more being explained to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all set. Motion?
I would like some action from.
So I don't have any further things to come back. Anybody else have anything to bring back? I feel like we've got enough. I mean, there's some things to maybe address or look at, but I don't have anything.
I agree, there's some water quality things that were brought up that we still need to address, but we can do that internally before we send the project out.
Good. So I'd make a motion that we approve the site plan review for the skate park.
Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stipulation.
Yes. Yep.
Any other?
Motion to adjourn?
All right.
Second.
We adjourn.